She walked in like a breeze through broken cornfields, silent, uninvited, and impossible to ignore. No name tag, no entourage, just a dirt-stained jacket and a rifle case older than the youngest cadet in the room. Laughter rippled before she even spoke. "Wrong building, farm girl," someone muttered, not knowing the hush they'd soon choke on. This wasn't a movie, but if it were, this was the part where the camera zooms in, slow, steady, on the underdog no one bet on. Because in 5 minutes, with 3 deafening shots, she'd turn that mockery into silence, and silence into legend. The Central Metro Police Tactical League wasn't known for kindness. This was a crucible, where ex-military, private security contractors, and the most elite officers came to prove they still had it. The shooting range was underground, encased in reinforced concrete and lit like a battlefield. Dim, clinical, echoing every movement like footsteps in a cathedral. She had no sponsor patch, no smart optics hanging from her neck, and no sidearm holstered in glossy leather. Just scuffed boots and a case that looked like it had crossed 2 wars and a flood. At the registration booth, the officer gave her a look that lasted 1 beat too long. "You lost, ma'am?" She shook her head and handed over the signed waiver, dog-eared and folded twice. The name at the top read Elaine Rowe, printed in ink so faint it looked like it belonged to another time. The officer scanned the barcode and blinked. "Candidate 42, Oak Hollow County, that's rural." A young guy behind her whispered to his friend, "You think she hunts squirrels or something?" They both chuckled. Elaine didn't flinch. Inside the lounge, dozens of candidates sat on polished aluminum benches, checking weapons, tightening vests, adjusting scopes worth thousands. Every now and then, someone glanced her way with a mix of amusement and pity. She took a corner seat, set the case on her lap like it was something fragile. No one spoke to her. No one had to. Their looks said it all. At 08:57, the range coordinator stepped out, clipboard in hand. "Today's open trials will test mid-light and night fire accuracy. Adaptive targeting. We'll be scoring precision, consistency, and speed. Top 3 may be invited to join next quarter's tactical league rotation." He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. His voice already assumed she wouldn't be. Around long, Elaine's fingers traced the carved initials on the wooden stock inside her case. WJR, her grandfather's. The man who taught her how to find the kill zone by feel, not sight. Who trained her in the orchard with swinging tin cans and firelight shadows. They could keep their tech. She had memory, and in the growing hush of the shooting bay, she knew something none of them did. The storm wasn't coming. She was the storm. The names were called in batches of 5. Each group marched into the shooting bay like soldiers into a proving ground. The walls pulsed with low industrial hums. Above, small red lights glowed like waiting eyes. The targets were digital silhouettes, some stationary, some reactive, designed to simulate live threats in unpredictable motion. Elaine was in Group 7, final batch. The commentator, a retired captain turned media liaison, leaned toward the glass of the observation deck, already live streaming. Up. Next we've got a fun mix. Couple SWAT applicants, a private contractor from Aegis Defense, and one mystery girl from farm country. This should be interesting. The chat exploded. LMAO, she brought a musket? Who let in the 4-H club? Plot twist, she hits nothing but walls. The shooting bay doors hissed open. Elaine stepped in behind 4 others. She carried the M1 Garand in both hands now, like a weight not just of wood and steel, but of legacy. It looked completely out of place in the modern metal and glass jungle of the city range. Lane 5. Her name didn't appear on the digital readout above her booth. Just Candidate 42. No data. To her right, Lane 4, a towering guy in a Kevlar. Best snorted when he saw her load the clip manually. "That thing's got recoil like a mule," he muttered. "Good luck keeping your teeth." Lane 3, a woman with a sharp jawline and tactical gloves, gave her a once-over. "You know this is timed, right? Not a Civil War reenactment." Elaine nodded. expression unreadable. From behind ballistic glass, the tactical league officers took notes. One of them, a woman with a short crew cut and piercing eyes, leaned toward the speaker. "Let's see if she survives the first round." The range went dark, not pitch black, but near enough. Soft red tracking lights flicked along the floor. Targets blinked alive at varying distances, some up close, others barely visible in the shadows. Randomized, no two lanes had the same sequence. Beep, round 1. 2 targets per candidate, 1 second apart. Lane 1 fired, quick, double tap. Steel clanged, lane 2 followed, clean hit, slight overcorrect. Lane 3, dead on. Lane 4 missed the second target by a hair. He cursed under breath. Then, lane 5 lit up. Elaine lifted the Garand. No hesitation. Boom. First target vanished. Half a second. Boom. Second target crumpled like it had been punched by thunder. Observers behind the glass straightened. The chat went silent. Someone muttered, "That sound?" The Garand's roar was different. Less pop, more judgment. Back in the booth, the crew cut officer scribbled 2 words. 0 flinch. When the lights came back up, scores appeared overhead. Elaine, 100%. Lane 4 stared at her. "Lucky shots." She said nothing. Round 2 would be harder. Moving targets, timed pop-ups, irregular spacing. The simulator's cruelty was in its randomness. But Elaine had grown up in chaos. Wild dogs, broken fences, thunderstorms that rolled through the orchard and turned target practice into wind battles. She remembered her grandfather tossing tin cans into the wind and yelling, "Don't wait for calm, find the stillness inside." Lane 3 fired and missed 1. Lane 4 overshot. Elaine's lights blinked red. She breathed, pressed stock to shoulder, eyes half-lidded, heart steady. Boom. First, boom. Second, boom. Third, 3 different angles. All down. Now even the captain in the broadcast booth whispered, "Where the hell did she learn that?" The scoreboard adjusted. Candidate 42, top of Group 7. And just like that, Farm Girl became a problem. They reset the range. Final challenge. Low light adaptive speed course, 6 pop-up targets, random placement. Each shooter gets 6 bullets, 1 shot per target. No second chances. Lane 5, candidate 42, the girl with the relic. Opposite, her now at lane 2 was their golden child, Callum Drexler. Former military, current tactical instructor, champion of last year's Elite League. Everything about him was precision. His beard, his boots, his customized HK416 with thermal optics and biometric trigger. He grinned sideways. "You sure you're ready for this, sweetheart?" Elaine didn't answer. He laughed. Didn't think. So. In the broadcast booth, the tension was razor thin. Chat windows were exploding. Drexler about to humble that farm chick. She was a fluke. This is where it ends. M1 Garand has entered the chat. Again. The range lights dimmed, leaving only pulsing red lane strips and the cold hum of anticipation. Behind the ballistic glass, evaluators leaned forward. The crew cut officer, Major Santos, folded her arms. She wasn't smiling. Beep. Callum went. First, his rifle sang. 6 shots in just over 4 seconds. 5 targets down, 1 grazed edge. Fast, efficient military clean. Applause behind the glass. A few fist bumps. He mock bowed. "I'll autograph your rifle when this is over." Called down the lane. Elaine stepped up. The Garand gleamed faintly in the red light. An ancient shape among carbon beasts. She checked her clip. 6 bullets. The ones she'd hand-loaded the night before by lantern light, just like Grandpa taught her. Beep, first target, left corner. Boom. Gone. Second, top center. She pivoted. Boom. Gone. Third, half covered behind. A steel plate. She leaned, adjusted, boom. The target exploded with a clang. By the 4th shot, the audience behind the glass wasn't just watching. They were leaning in. Target 5 popped near ground level, hard angle. She dropped a knee, exhaled. Boom, target. 6 flickered up late right edge. Final second, she didn't blink, boom, silence. Then ping, 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 ping. All 6 targets dropped, no misses, no wasted breath, a beat. Then the scoreboard flashed. Candidate 42, 6-6, 4.01 seconds fastest time, perfect accuracy. The room didn't gasp. It collapsed into silence. Callum stared at the scoreboard, blinking like it owed him an apology. That can't be right. But Major Santos stood. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She just said, she didn't flinch. Drexler looked at her, then at Elaine. You cheated. That thing's tricked out. An officer checked the rifle. No scope, no mod, iron sights, wooden stock, standard trigger, vintage, pure. Another candidate murmured, she beat the record. With that, Elaine set the Garand down gently, muzzle away. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. The rangemaster walked to the center, picked up the mic. For the first time in league history, a candidate has cleared the adaptive pop-up course with perfect accuracy and top speed. Using an unmodified iron sight mid-century rifle, he turned to Elaine. Where'd you learn? To shoot like that? She looked up. Her voice was soft, steady. Orchard Field, night wind, tin cans. The first clap came from behind the glass, just one. Sharp, hesitant, then another and another. Within seconds, the observation deck erupted, not in a roar, but in a stunned, rising crescendo of applause that felt like it didn't know how to process what it had just witnessed. Callum Drexler stood stone still, jaw clenched. He glanced at his rifle like it had betrayed him, then back at Elaine, whose Garand now rested against the wall like it had nothing left to prove. He stepped toward her. You ever serve? No, she said simply. He nodded once, tight-lipped. You shoot like someone who did. That was the closest he could get to saying I was wrong. Major Santos crossed the range with measured steps. Her boots echoed. She stopped in front of Elaine, studied her like a field report she'd underestimated. What's your name? Elaine Rowe. Oak Hollow. Yes, ma'am. Major Santos gave a faint nod. Then, without ceremony, she lifted a black and gold Tactical League patch and pressed it into Elaine's palm. You're in. The room didn't erupt, it held its breath. Someone recorded it. That clip, just 22 seconds long, hit the internet before Elaine made it out of the parking lot. Farm Girl takes the league. 6.2 million views in 18 hours. The clip showed her kneeling, taking the 5th shot in slow motion. Sparks flying, target folding. The Garand kicking back like thunder wrapped in memory. Comments poured in. I don't even care about guns, this was art. She didn't flinch once, not even a breath out of rhythm. Old rifle, young hands, pure steel. At her family's farm, her younger brother watched the clip on loop, while her mother sat in quiet tears, whispering, your grandfather would have known. He'd have known. The Tactical League sent an official invitation to join the Advanced Urban Precision Unit. Not as a candidate, not as a guest, as an instructor. By the following week, local news ran a special called The Girl with the Rifle That Roared. Reporters called. Shooting schools emailed. Gear companies offered to send her new rifles. She declined most. She didn't want a new rifle. She wanted to keep the one that reminded her what it cost to be overlooked and what it meant to answer with silence, then thunder. A week later, during a league press event, Elaine stood at the podium, same boots, same jacket. The Garand resting beside her like a companion. I didn't come to prove anything, she told the crowd. I just came to shoot. I figured if the shot was good enough, it'd speak for me. Major Santos, standing at the edge, nodded once. It did, she said. And now, every time a new candidate steps into Lane 5 at the Metro range, the instructors still whisper, that's the lane the farm girl stood. Not with noise, not with swagger, but with a bullet, a breath, and a hush that changed everything. A month later, Elaine stood alone in the old orchard. The sun was setting behind the sycamores, casting long golden slashes across the dirt. The leaves above rustled like whispers, like voices of those who'd once stood where she was now. At her feet, a single tin can swung from a fraying string, battered, scarred, still hanging. She raised the Garand, breathed once, and didn't fire. She didn't need to. She'd hit every target that mattered. The Tactical League had sent her a plaque. It sat unopened on the kitchen table. The invitation to speak at the annual ceremony, politely declined. She'd said what? She needed to say the day she stood on lane 5 with 6 bullets and the orchard in her lungs. But the world wouldn't stop talking. Clips of her perfect run played in online ads, on sports shows, even in military classrooms. One academy began teaching her method. Zero Tech, the Elaine Rowe Protocol. A defense company offered her a position as brand ambassador. She refused. She wouldn't sell her name, or her rifle. The Garand wasn't for ads. It was for tin. For orchard wins, for memory. One day she returned to the city for a private event. Off the record, just training. She wore no patch, no title, just boots and grit. She stood before a dozen new recruits, half of them barely out of the academy. One asked nervously, "What's the trick to not flinching?" She smiled, quiet and slow. "Don't shoot like you're proving something," she said. "Shoot like someone's life taught you not to miss." They wrote it down like scripture. Later, one of the senior officers approached her, same one who'd mocked her case the first day. "I owe you an apology," he said. She nodded once. That was enough. As she left, someone had etched something new onto the wall above lane 5. "This lane is where silence became legend." She didn't touch it, just looked once and left. That night, back in Oak Hollow, she watched the stars from the porch. Rifle across her lap, crickets chirping. The world had gone loud again. Applause, praise, headlines. But here it was quiet. And in that quiet, she heard her grandfather's voice, soft as dusk. "You don't need to speak loud to be heard. You just need to be true." She smiled. The hush that once mocked her was gone. What remained was the hush of reverence, of awe, of stories told by others when she was no longer in the room. 6 bullets, one name, Elaine Rowe. And in every target she struck, on every range, in every memory, there was a simple truth. Sometimes the loudest voice comes from the quietest shot. Sometimes all it takes is one quiet voice, one steady hand, one shot that speaks louder than all the noise. If this story moved you, even just a little, share it. Not for the applause, but for every person who's ever been laughed at before. They were seen. For every girl with calloused hands, for every son carrying a legacy, for every hush that waits to become thunder. Let them know. You don't need the newest gear to make history. You just need the courage to show up and aim. True,